Well, hello, that's me again. Today is May 12th. It's Friday. Happy Friday. And let's get into the neck of the woods, so to speak, immediately. I will start with what I would call, and actually I'm quoting Irina Alsnes, the main observer and reporter for the RIA Novosti, and it's about the information hygiene and about this counter-offensive which was declared yesterday by obviously very unscrupulous people, including those, as you might expect, journalists, even those who work for the official media in Russia. And as Irina Alsnes wrote this in RIA News today, she basically stated this straightforward. The counter-offensive of the armed forces of Ukraine started, but not where everybody expected it. And yes, she was talking about obviously this hysteria which was created by, as I already stated, some obviously Ukrainian sources, and it was caught up by people who, for example, till yesterday I had some respect for, I don't have it anymore, because again, as my hypothesis remains the same. Only 2-3% of those reporters are people with the human and professional integrity. Others are what would be called people who monetize hype. That is why, for example, a lot of what happened with the special military operation helped us to understand. It was a great litmus test who those people are and what they do. Fact is, sometimes I think, and I'm stating this openly often, that if there would have been no special military operation, one should have invented it to really expose those people who before that we thought were normal people and professionals. They are not. The journalist environment, be that in the Western countries or in Russia, is filled with those people. And make no mistake, and if you look attentively at my basically video blog, and especially my blog, I actually also, I'm not making secret out of it. I come and sometimes ask you to help me, in terms of the subscribing to the channel and monetizing it, in terms of supporting me on Patreon, or, for example, in buying coffee or two. But as you already noticed, and I was specifically on point so many times, I don't do tactical minutia. One of the reasons I don't do it because I understand what fog of war is, and I am professional, basically military professional in terms of working with information. And when many people still don't understand what it is all about, and actually real serious military professionals with a serious military academic background, this is what they teach. They not only are taught how to use weapons, how to operate tactically, or even think operationally, it's also how you develop the basically data, how you become tactically, operationally aware, and it's all about those OODA loops. Evidently, you cannot teach it to most of the so-called reporters or those amateur bloggers who create all those wonderful pictures and sell them for the monetization. That is why, for example, my channel doesn't grow that much. I've been around for a year plus since the start, practically, no, not since the start, but slightly earlier than that of the special military operation. I still have about 37,000 subscribers, and I do not try to promote myself as a person with integrity, but you know what? That is why I don't comment on those things. But look what we actually got with this hysteria yesterday in terms of the, so to speak, counter-offensive. And if you look attentively at what was happening in terms of this complete media baloney, it was the fact that it was nothing more than a company size recon enforced by Ukraine Obviously, they have been beaten back and with the horrendous losses. Actually, some numbers are right now circulating that yesterday alone, there's something like 850 KIAs alone. So that's so much for this counteroffensive. However, the counteroffensive most likely will happen in some shape, so to speak, because obviously the curators of the Zelensky and Kiev regime and those Nazi supporting, so to speak, decision makers, they need some kind of return on the investment. They need to show something for it because obviously, as you understand, most of the Western politics today, it always was, but now it's ultimately reached its apex as the PR. Basically, everything is done, what is done in the political life in the United States and the Western Europe is built around PR. So they need PR on the battlefield. Although, we already, and you can look up my yesterday's talk to Russia Today and what I write constantly about this counteroffensive. They will literally beat armed forces of Ukraine into committing suicide. And then we'll see if Russia will start the big offensive or maybe she will continue to merely annihilate whatever is being thrown at them and then probably move in. And again, this is speculation, but I would say that, yeah, we can certainly suspect that Russia is interested in breaking this, not breaking, basically building actually, this land corridor towards Transnistria. So this is what I wanted to tell you about. And, you don't have to go really far to understand what is this all about, because when you have Mr. Borrell, evidently in between his, being drunk and high, I don't know what's wrong with this guy. But look at this. Just 2 days ago, an astonishing admission by none other as the big so-called foreign policy honcho from the European Union. Look what he said. I know how to end the war immediately, Borrell told La Sexta El Intermedio show. Stop providing military aid to Ukraine, and Ukraine will have to surrender in a few days. That's it. The war is over, he told to this show, and fact is, once in a while those idiots, they do kind of tell the truth. Maybe they have their guards down or whatever, but yeah, that's the truth. And fact is, that is why Russia is not moving anywhere, waiting for until they come in, and whatever the help or military aid have been provided for Ukraine will be completely physically annihilated. You don't have to listen to me. You can listen to Larry Johnson, you can listen to Colin McGregor, you can listen to Scott Ritter, and you can listen to many other people who will tell you that numbers are there. You can see how Russia physically annihilates anything what NATO provided, and Mr. Blinken was on the record, I believe yesterday, don't quote me on that, maybe 2 days ago, when he stated that Ukraine has everything it needs for the counteroffensive. And then suddenly he says, no, but we also will provide something else which you need. So, these guys are desperate. Don't forget, they have to show something for this, and Blinken obviously understand as much in military operations as I understand the Chinese choreography, and I will tell you that I don't understand much in Chinese choreography. And so when you look at this, it's like, you can see where and what is going on. So, and that brings us to this other thing. Mr. Putin himself, as you can see yourself, 2 days ago signed basically the final nail into the coffin of the Treaty of the Conventional Forces in Europe, because evidently it was that de facto for many years, and now Russia is completely untied herself any kind of limitation, so to speak, untied the hands to itself to have any kind of configuration of the conventional forces close to European soil, just in case the Europeans decide to commit unthinkable and go and kill themselves by attacking Russia. And so this treaty is officially dead now, and Mr. Ryabkov has been appointed as the first deputy minister of the foreign affairs, as the guy who has to handle the judicial, basically, death of this treaty. Good riddance, as they say. Now, but of course, it wouldn't be that easy for anybody, if not for this news, of course. And the news, of course, are this. They try to make it big in news, like huge. Here it is. Britain moves to first to supply Ukraine with long-range cruise missiles. Okay, yeah, we know that Britain tries to play, big guy, while in reality the nation is reduced to the basically military and economic pipsqueak. But hey, they want to do this thing, and they supply to Ukraine. They say this missile, which is called Storm Shadow. Here you can see this missile. It's basically stuck underneath the Tornado land attack aircraft, obviously produced by Germany, England, and Spain, I believe, also the part of the Tornadoes. But here it is. It's an air-launched missile. What is this air-launched missile? They say that its range, well, at least that's what official data states, is up to 560 kilometers. It is classic land attack missile in the sense that it is high subsonic. It flies at Mach 0.85, and it flies on the height of elevation of about 30 meters. It's low, but not low enough. And of course, Britain, trying to pretend that it still matters, it provided allegedly these missiles to Ukraine. The problem, of course, it is still air-launched missile. And of course, this missile, if theoretically pretend that armed forces of Ukraine will have some kind of the aircraft, and believe me, a Storm Shadow, which is also known as Scalp in France, even between France and United Kingdom, the integration of this missile to the combat aircraft differs dramatically. And I don't know how they will be integrating it with whatever is left of the Ukrainian Air Force. But yes, the key here is this tactical minutia, if you wish, or tactical technical minutia, is the fact that in order for it to reach 560 kilometers, which would theoretically allow to launch this missile, let's say at Sevastopol. And Sevastopol is being attacked practically on the weekly basis by all kinds of drones, be them in air drones, be them the surface drones, and Russians, repel these attacks. But the point is, of course, that where they will be launching it from. What kind of air assets will have? They don't have Tornado, Armed Forces of Ukraine. Each of their flight of any kind of the aircraft, combat aircraft, whatever is left of them, is usually just takeoff only. It ends up being shot down either by Russian Air Force or Russian Air Defense. And the question is, okay, theoretically, you can go out and come up with some gizmo, some contraption where you will put this missile on and you can launch it theoretically, if to imagine, using some kind of booster maybe from the ground. But let me put it this way. In this case, it will not have this range of 560 kilometers because it will spend most of its fuel at the acceleration phase and reaching the flying the appropriate trajectory, so to speak, of its flight path. And that will reduce it dramatically. So what is then behind this supply of the Storm Shadow, or Scalp as they call it? And I think so Russian Ministry of Defense has a very good idea about what is this all about. Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs responded to it this way when they learned that they will be supplying this Storm Shadow. Here it is. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs reacted immediately, and they stated, of course, that yeah, the supplying of these missiles to Kiev will, inevitably grow to the escalation of the tension and, things of this nature. And of course, there was the not very veiled but pretty open threat for United Kingdom. But look what they stated correctly in the Russian Foreign Ministry. They added that by this, United Kingdom confirms its unprecedented involvement into the conflict. And in Foreign Ministry noted that this kingdom really overplayed into geopolitics and wants to get at least status of the non-formal NATO leader on this Ukrainian track, and also to show itself as under the enemy of Russia, uncompromising enemy of Russia, and that is why London is ready to cross any kind of borders and grow and bring the conflict to the on the principally new level. So what can I say? If you remember HMS Defender about 2 years ago trying to break into the Russian territorial waters in the Black Sea, obviously Turkey today shut down the all straits and there is no military presence of NATO, large assets. But Vladimir Putin went on record and he stated that, well, you know what, next time it repeats itself, we'll just sink you and you will do nothing about it. And that's exactly what is coming down to. So if those missiles begin to fly towards Sevastopol and Simferopol, let alone what Ukrainians usually do, they blow civilian targets. So you know what, I will go out on a limb here and I would say that Russia can actually show Royal Navy what modern naval warfare is. Just for starters, to warm up, obviously. And of course, they have to keep in mind in London, obviously, that 10 Downing Street is the fixed geographic coordinate. And, you know, if they want to go that way, certainly Russia is ready. Russia was always ready since the start of special military operation. But, of course, what we have to understand about this storm shadow is this. Look attentively at the data on date on this news. This is 25th April 2018. You probably already forgot it, but I will remind you. Mr. Trump, who is for some reason considered a peace president in the United States, decided to launch a bunch of the missiles together with the NATO friends and allies, so to speak, at Syria. And they launched 103 missiles, of which Syria intercepted 79. It was an astonishing performance by the rather old Syrian air defense because, of course, it had the Panzer S-1 among modern systems which took part of it, but they also used good old Book M2s and, you know, and Book M1s even. And they shut down truckload of Tomahawks, basically the bulk of it. And look at this. Look what this news states. Of course, that hasn't been shown in the West because West doesn't like to show how they fail. But look at this. And I translate to you what is in underscored, underlined with red. The General Staff demonstrated to journalists the pieces and of the cruise missiles. What you see on the exhibition, you can see the basically pieces of the and fragments of the cruise missiles of the naval basing, which were produced in the United States, namely Tomahawk. And look at this. Cruise missiles of the air basing produced by England and France, which are known as Scalp and Storm Shadow. And so those missiles have been successfully intercepted, together with, rumor has it, but evidently confirmed, together with JASSMs and other things, by Syrian air defense. So, does it mean that Russians do not know what this missile is? No, of course they know. It's classic, land attack missile, which flies by the inertial guidance, then it hits somewhere near the shore and begins to basically run the terrain, computer-generated picture, and then, of course, guess what? Its updates or corrections of the flight trajectory are going through the GPS. So you already probably by yourself figured it out that Russians will be continuing jamming GPS, and then the rest of it, yeah, Russian air defense will have to work a little bit harder. Maybe they will need additional more complexes to prevent Ukrainians launching it either at Sevastopol or somewhere in Crimea, or, God forbid, of course, they may try to launch it at Moscow or something like that. But then again, that's going to change the game, and as I already stated, I heard the Royal Navy already has the shortage of hulls, the main assets, especially after this snafu or fubar, if you wish, with the HMS Prince of Wales, which never actually entered any kind of the combat service, is now being used as the spare parts. So, yeah, it's very easy to show to them who the boss in the house, pretty much, and the United States will not come to their aid. But you know what? They are desperate for also their internal reasons, because British economy is in complete tatters, basically, and Europe as such is basically facing a complete economic collapse, as is, by the way, United States. But again, as I stated, United States has a very serious advantage over Europe in the sheer size, and of course the fact that United States actually does have resources. Europe does not. And that brings us to the other thing, which is very important, because, well, guess what? We have the situation which is really funny if you look at it. You have Sunday Wall Street Journal telling you that, oh my God, obviously everybody needs some kind of the power, you know, because, well, we know that this green transition is complete pseudoscientific fraud. It's basically bizarre postmodernist project which doesn't work, because people in the West who are making those decisions, they cannot come up with anything which actually works. But look what Wall Street Journal notes: the West needs Russia to power its nuclear comeback, and US, Europe add reactors, but still heavily dependent on Moscow for crucial ingredients to produce fuel. Well, let me put it this way. It's not just fuel. There are much more than that Russia produces. And by the way, this is extraordinarily high tech. And if you go back a little bit on my videos, you will see the video dedicated to a large degree to the Rosatom. And Rosatom is a monster corporation, one of the largest corporations in the world. And what is most importantly, it is so huge, it controls right now half of the nuclear market in the world. Be that nuclear power stations construction or production of all kind of nuclear related things, from enriched uranium to and nuclear fuels, and even isotopes, and you know, which you use every day in the X-ray and CT scan machines. And this is just part of it. I'm not talking about Rosatom producing the gigantic number of other products, including robotics. And you remember, if you go back to my video, you will see yourself what is going on there, including very extensive educational programs by Rosatom. And I'm talking about educational programs in engineering and management, command and control, so to speak, of the nuclear power, be them in the nuclear power stations or whatever else. So, well, lasers too, you know. So, and then you'll have this thing. And as if basically echoing what the Wall Street Journal wrote yesterday, look at this. Climate at war sent nuclear fuel orders surging at Urenco. And this is Bloomberg reporting, but pay attention to this a little bit of this graph, if you wish. As you can see yourself, Russia enriches the most uranium in the world and nuclear reactor fuel. Now let's take a look. What do we have here? Okay, we have Urenco, France, and France has the largest share of the nuclear power stations in the world. I believe France produces 70% of its energy on the nuclear power stations, but there are some issues with the nuclear power stations in France as of lately. The issues of the rusting of the piping, which is crucial and a critical safety concern. But look at this. France produces some enriched uranium. China produces Urenco, which is the conglomerate of the United Kingdom, Netherlands, and Denmark. They also produce quite a bit. But then, of course, you can see Russia, which dwarfs everybody else. And when you look at this attentively, you also see that other gives you the rest of the enriched uranium. But you know what? United States actually is not there. And yes, there is a reason for that. And that is why when you look at the list of sanctions, and you will notice the very interesting pattern. United States does not really sanction Russian nuclear industry. Well, it wouldn't work even if they tried to really sanction it, as any sanctions, they will hurt more those who impose them. But when you look attentively at this, you begin to understand, oh my gosh, United States is dependent on Russia to a large degree for the nuclear fuel. And this is just a part of the story, of course. And I'm not going to be talking about Westinghouse and whoever is providing now the preparation of the appropriate professional cadres to run and design those stations, nuclear power stations. Rumor has it, don't quote me on that, but I heard this rumor, that United States lost the expertise in designing proper nuclear power stations. They tried to come up with something else. When will they achieve any kind of success? Who knows? But this is one of the facets, so to speak, of this multifaceted and very complex problem. But that brings us to the other thing. And again, when you look at this issue of even London, who still believes that it matters and still believe that whatever data they provide and whatever the, all kinds of the services, financial services they provide, which of course the rest of the world steadily kind of rejecting them and refusing from using them. And that's going to be anything from insurance to any kind of the audit data. But even this thing, if you look attentively and when you begin to kind of, put your brain around this, look what even World Economics, which is the London-based organization, World Economics Research, London, look what they do when they present even their limited data on GDPs per in terms for the adjustment for the purchase power parity. And as you can see yourself, they still produce this baloney figure of 23 trillion for the United States, which is not true, because obviously they count there all kinds of expenditures which are actually detracting from the gross domestic product. And of course GDP by itself is basically useless data. United States is smaller economically than India nowadays. But if you can see yourself, even for Russia, and for Russia it's not fashionable to give any kind of the appropriate data, as you can see yourself, Russia is larger than Germany economy, and it's actually in pursuit of Japan in becoming the fourth economy in the world. But I can tell you, between us, no, I'm kidding you. Obviously, it is well-known fact that with their growth, which is resumed now, industrial growth in Russia, you will be seeing that Russia will be overtaking Japan sometime next year, probably. And after that, it will be actually economy which will be pretty much behind India. Not India, actually, maybe United States, despite the fact that it's obviously twice smaller in population. And of course, do not forget, we have to keep this in mind. United States have been thoroughly deindustrialized. So in this particular case, 80% of the economic data which is provided by, or basically supported by the service sector in the United States, much of it actually not productive at all, but detracting. So make your own conclusions. And again, even if we go today, basically United States, the remnants of the what used to be great economic power and great country, they rest primarily on the infrastructure which has been built a long time ago, and what we see, highways, all those even retail chains or wholesale chains, those are ones from the era before the industrialization. And quoting Colonel McGregor, as he stated, the actual deindustrialization started at Reagan's watch. I agree completely. It didn't start just with Clinton or this famous House Resolution 444, which admitted China to World Trade Organization. It started much long before it. Capital doesn't care about America or Americans. It cares only about profit or making money out of nothing, out of thin air. And this era, this period of time in human history is coming to an end. But in the end, in conclusion, I want to say, and I'm not going to show you anything, you can easily find it in news, there was a huge event today in Russia, which most of the news organizations in the West will not report. Mr. Putin signed the pilot project of finally burying the Bologna system of education and finally returning to pretty much, it's very like 80% common to the Soviet system of education, which provided excellent fundamental education and most importantly provided excellent higher education, which of course finally we throw away all those bachelor's and all those useless degrees, and we have now finally back to the what in Russia, which is called higher education or higher education, which ranges from 4 years of the intense courses to standard Soviet and Russian title of specialist, 6 academic year education. Well, that's what I have, for example, which is the equivalent of the American graduate degree. And after that, the sky is the limit. And I cannot emphasize enough how important all that is. I'll give you a hint. You cannot take electives anymore like ballet or photograph while studying engineering, because the essence of this change is the fact that you run the program, which is a very rigid, very limited program which trains you to become great engineer, great scientist, great what at it. And you know what? That did happen today. And obviously just only part of the universities will be subjected to this program. Russian military academies have been doing this anyway. So it will be very interesting to see what's going to happen. But I can tell you the educational level will grow significantly. Nobody needs those bachelors in Russia, especially bachelors in service economy. All those marketologists, economists, and what have you. So, and this is my talk to you guys today for Friday. As always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel and support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And you know what? Have a nice weekend ahead of you. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.